How's it going, everyone? Sessiion here. Welcome to Final Fantasy XIV. Now, realistically, we have been experiencing a lot of changes over the course of the expansion of Dawn Trio with the jobs. Now, a lot of discussion has also been made that going into the inevitable 7.5 patch and even into 8.0, which we'll find information about at FanFest, which is already like around the corner, which is incredible. A lot of jobs are going to experience some type of change. Throughout the course of the expansion, a lot of jobs have been changed quite a bit, and even so much to the point that their rotation changes entirely, or like how their play is entirely done with their best in slot like kits and their job buttons and their presses and all that fun stuff, right? So today we are, as requested by the community, going to do a tier list on which jobs either like absolutely need a rework, could use like a little something, maybe like a change or two, and it's just kind of chilling. So this is what this tier list is about. Now, that being said, though, this tier list is by absolutely no means an objective tier list. It's just like a little fun, like, hey, you know, people asked me to do it. I said, sure, why not? So don't take my words super literal. It's kind of how I think and feel about the jobs in the current state after playing the game for so long. So let's get into it. Okay, so for Monk, so historically, I might say that word a lot, so be prepared. Historically, Monk used to have stance changes where you can go between like your fire, your earth, and your wind, and I thought that was really cool. And then you used to have something called Grease Lightning that they kind of just embedded as like a trait naturally, but it used to be an activation thing, and based on either your like OGCDs or GCDs, it would further increase like your speed power, which is really cool. So then they reworked the job a couple times, and now we have the current version where you focus on like channeling like your analogies, and then you can do like your lunar and solars, and then you get like your masterful blitz out, which I love that so much. So right now, for me personally, like Monk is just kind of chilling. I really enjoy the way that Monk plays right now. It's so much fun to play. It's a really good job. It's really awesome. The thing also is that as somebody who's played old Monk, I think it's completely viable and even possible for them to take the old version of Monk and even turn it into a new melee job and have it be played in that kind of format. Now, I don't necessarily need them to go back and revert Monk now to how it was beforehand, because I think that if they did that, I would miss the current version of Monk too. So it'd be cool if they could figure out a way to like have both of them kind of coexist, if you will. So I don't know how easily possible that is, but that's how I feel. Next, we have Dragoon. Now, Dragoon is actually one of the few jobs that at the very opening of Dawn Trio got like a rework to kind of compensate for some of its buttons, because Dragoon pressed a lot of buttons in terms of doing damage, which made total sense. Like, it was a very high action per minute job. Like, you press a lot of buttons, not much space to throw out like your OGCD roll ability, like your feints and your second winds and that sort of thing. So they made a couple changes, right? They took out the spine shatter die, so you can only do wing glide, which is fine. You know, they also changed some of the positioning stuff too, so that you can use like Fang and Claw into Drake's Bane and vice versa with Fang Thrust. And you know, they also turned well, not turned, but like, you know, star crosses and OGCDs you press as well, so that way you know, APM, not like a GCD thing. So the rotation for Dragoon's been pretty much the same the entire time, right? Which is really cool. Now, in my opinion, there was a change that they did that I think caused it to maybe need just like one thing, maybe two. And here's what it is. So right now, Nistrand, which is the level 70 skill you get after activating your Skogul, it used to have 3 charges, so you can actually like GCD and like you shoot it, and then you again, and you know, back and forth, which is really cool. I like that a lot. And then the potency was really fun because, like, you know, cleaving was always remarkable. They reduced it from 3 to 1 charge, so that way you can have more like room to fit in like your OGCDs, which I thought was like, it made sense. But then you realize that it really only needed to go down to 2 charges. So if they could just add that singular change, I think Dragoon could easily move to just chilling. Because right now Dragoon's a great job. Like, it's fun to play. It's, you know, really action high, heavy fun. It's such a good job. But that Nistrand change could be nicely incorporated to that too, and then will be perfect. The other thing that I personally would like, they don't do this right now, but I'm a little bit of a fan of pressing the positionals. Like, I think pressing them is cool and like it's fun, and it's a way to like challenge yourself as well to like maximize efficiency. So when you go from Fang and Claw to like Wheeling Thrust, it turns into Drakesbane, and the potency of it is equal to like your Heaven's Thrust, which is totally cool, or like your Full Thrust, depending on what you're doing. So what I would like is for, because Fang and Claw is like your flank, and then Wheeling Thrust is your rear, right? So I would actually like it if you can keep that. So you have to do Fang and Claw into Wheeling Thrust. But it'd be cool if there's a button you can press, like an OGCD, like a charge thing, kind of sort of like a True North. But the True North thing just transforms, you know, your secondary combo attack or your first one, whatever, into a Drakesbane. But the potency is still the same. So it's not like you're going to get more potency. Like if you do 2 charges and you double Drakesbane, it doesn't increase the potency, right? It just removes the positional necessity. That way you know, only use it when you have to. Because I liked when Fang and Claw and Wheeling Thrust were combo back and forth between each other. So I do like the current version of Drakesbane as well. But I feel like I would like it personally a little bit more if I didn't need to press that button to activate the non-positional, then I could do that. A lot of the bosses also like are omnidirectional, so it's like whatever, but even still, though, like in certain case scenarios, I'd be a fan of it. So that's it though. Not really too much from there. So next up, we have Ninja. Now, interestingly enough, I actually haven't seen a lot of people in Party Finder play Ninja. The job is great. It's also super, super good in car. But I haven't seen a lot of players running around with Ninja. Now, just because people aren't playing Ninja doesn't really tell me that the job needs like a rework or anything, but there is something that I've always disliked about Ninja ever since that they made the change to the job, that I feel like it just has to make its return back, and then it'll go back to being like the perfect job that I liked it when it was back then. So it definitely needs something to me. What it needs is, and like when they made the change, it made so much sense at the time. It's still totally fine as it is for now, but I kind of like the older version of what it was beforehand. So what that change simply is Trick Attack, or Kunai's Bane now, and Mug, or Dokimori, right? Dokimori is a 2-minute target debuff attack that helps the party out, and Kunai's Bane helps like the ninja. But back in the day, those buttons were switched. So Trick Attack, or Kunai's Bane, would actually assist the party every minute, and then Mug would help the ninja out every 2 minutes. So those 2 buffs were just swapped. So the potency like value that Ninja brought to the table by giving everybody like a team burst window moment every minute was super, super cool. So all that I would like for them to do with Ninja is just put that back. That's it. I don't really need anything else for Ninja's rotation, kit, job, anything to change. If they ever decide to go back to like the role-based system where Ninja had like smokescreen and then that other ability where you can like shirk people and aggro management became more of a thing, I would love that as well if it made like a return. But I'm not really missing it anywhere near as much as like the minute and 2 minute swap that the job had back then. So now, is Ninja a great job right now? Like, absolutely. But as somebody who, you know, played it back then, it'd be kind of nice. Even like the kits of the Viper and the Wasp changed too, because like Ninja also had like a stance thing. I don't really need the stance thing that much. I really just want like the Ninja Trick Mug swap to come back. That's pretty much it. So next is Samurai. Now Samurai is interesting because Samurai was one of those few jobs that did in fact get a rework, but the rework was kind of like it was weird, honestly, because like Mekio now activates Tendo, but Tsubame Geishi was like a 2-charge thing. So you technically, I don't really know how much of it actually changed, but when I was playing it at the very beginning of Dawntrail, and then when you know you press the button to activate like your Tendo, I didn't realize that the button changed over to Mekio. Like it was a kind of like what? So Samurai is also still like, again, has been getting so many changes potency wise over the course of the entire expansion, and right now it's in the like proper position it should be in, but job design wise I think it could use some changes. So, and again, this is somebody like myself who's played like older Samurai. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a Kaiten enjoyer. I do miss pressing that button and the power that it used to have, but I understand that if we never get that back, like, it's okay. But what I would actually like for them to do with Samurai is actually change the way how like Third Eye or Tengetsu works, because there was a button back then called Seitan where whenever you took damage with that attack, it would restore like your Kenki gauge, and you can do like a counter attack thing, like kind of like a parry, like counter, which honestly, that's one of the features that I think should make like an absolute return personally. And also there was like a kill move, I think that so kill moves are moves that we had back in the day where like if the boss's HP was like under 20%, you can do like a finisher every like minute or whatever it was. Pretty sure Samurai had one back then. I forget what it's called though, but it would like stab it and then you like kick your foot out the sword, and then it was really cool animation. So I think if I had to think about it, that's what I would want mostly. I do like the concept of how the job plays right now, but yeah, I would like for there to be some kind of counter attack. Also, if you can like change, we talked about this like a while ago, but like if you can actually change the thing that some buttons do. So right now Tengetsu gives you like a regen, so it'd be cool if you activate it and then you get hit, and then instead of like a regen, it gives you like an XCOG or like a shield, something like that, you know what I mean? Like if you can change what you can do with that button, I would be so happy about that, just because it gives like the option for you to pick and choose. There's that. Additionally, Tenka Goken is currently like a circle attack, and it used to be a cone, and some other targets that also like serve as samurais, when they use their Tenka Goken, it's still a cone as well. So I'm not going to say that I'm opposed to it going back to a cone, but if it did go back to a cone, I'd be cool with that too. And again, if we ever get Kaiten back, I'll be very happy, but if we don't get Kaiten, like, it's totally okay. There's that. Next up is Reaper. Okay, so Reaper is a very particular job, with the position that it has that one button. There's a couple of jobs in this game right now that have that one button that the job either like just hates because it's just like, it's like, what are we doing? Or it's comfortable to play in another scenario, but not at like level 100. So for me, like Reaper could use a couple of changes. So Reaper got a change that to me kind of still doesn't, I don't know why they did this, it still doesn't make any sense to me, but the change that they did was Enshroud now is a 5-second recast time, so you can literally like Enshroud, GCD, Communio, Enshroud, like, then you can just do that. Do you want to? Like, of course not, but can you? Like, yes. So I never understood why they made that change. I think they made it in like 7.3. And in my mind, I thought that that singular change was going to be like insane and like wildly god tier, and then like it was going to cost like a rework for Reaper, but you still sort of play Reaper the exact same way, which like is fine. But I was so under the impression that Reaper was going to get like a rework as a result of that. Now I still have the impression that rework Reaper for that button in Enshroud applies only at level 80. Which makes no sense, because like the only ultimate available for playing Reaper with Enshroud without the Communio was in T, and also like people in the like Savage Raids and like Trials if you want to do this too. So like why they turned Enshroud into a 5-second button really has still never made sense to me, because the way that the job plays is still the exact same thing. But like again, I kind of digress. I mean, I still love playing Reaper right now. Like I think it's a super fun job to play, and to my knowledge as well, just based off of what I've been hearing from people, they don't like Professio, which is the 100 ability. So essentially it's Communio 2, right? But it's like a GCD. And I think as a result of how the job currently plays, Gluttony is a button that you used to press on cooldown all the time, and now you kind of just press it whenever you can after your 2 minute and every minute. So the rotation overall for Reaper is still about the same as it was prior, but the way how Reaper plays at level 90 is essentially you simply just prioritize like Gluttony. So you're always able to keep Gluttony on like a full rotation every single time. But you can't do that with at level 100, because like Professor's there. And also I think the setup as well changes. So like the power of Executioner, Gibbet, and Gallows is like also really helpful for setting up like your burst window with the opener. But after the 2 minute and beyond, like it's kind of like you just kind of hold Gluttony like extensively. it's like a who cares button sort of, and you need it, but I mean, like, you know, in the rotation, you don't really have to worry about keeping it off of cooldown or not. So I feel like some people don't really enjoy how that button is being used. But that doesn't mean that Reaper is not like insanely fun to play. Like, I still love playing Reaper, and I didn't have a problem with the gluttony thing at first until I started hearing people say that they don't like it. So that's why I kind of was like, oh, you know what I mean? So that being said, the Reaper's great. Also, people were theorizing an idea where you can actually press Harvest Moon more frequently than like whenever you feel like pressing it, like under like a window, for example. So someone said, like, if you get like 40 gauge, I forgot what they said, but it was like if you get like 40 gauge, then your soul so automatically turns into a Harvest Moon, so you can throw it out. And then, like, because you kind of get the button for free, it like serves as like a replacement for Shadow of Death. That way you can like use it either as a mobility tool, or you can just kind of use it as like a rotational thing, which I thought was interesting. I currently like the version that Harvest Moon has right now, so it makes total sense to me, but I thought the idea was like really clever, so I got to give credibility where it's due. But Reaper's like still overall like incredible, so I'm chilling with it. But I could understand now that Perfectio and Gluttony is like a little bit like a little odd. So's that. Next we have Viper. Now, man, Viper has been through it. So going into 7.4, the cleaving power of Viper has been like significantly reduced, and I don't even know why, but I'm under the impression that it's going to be because of something that they do in the upcoming raid tier, but who knows, I'm not too sure. But in Fru, and even in like M6, when the cleave max thing was the thing, like Viper was going crazy strong, you know what I mean? So like it was kind of nuts. But then we run into the same situation where I don't even know if anybody remembers Dreadwinder, which was replaced with like Vicewinder. So Viper had a similar debuff situation that Reaper has with Shadow of Death, and you essentially just want to keep a debuff on the target at all times, and also like maintain like a speed and like a power buff thing, which is really cool. I actually like enjoyed that version. Now how Viper plays now really hasn't changed all too much, but you know, I think that the direction that it's currently in right now is like totally fine, you know. So I like the job like a ton. I think it's honestly like kind of chilling. My only thing about Viper though is that the damage, because like Viper is supposed to be like the strongest melee like next to Samurai, and I don't think the job really needs like a rework per se. My only wonder and question is like, if they decided to make Viper an 8.0 job, the simplest question I ask is like, what do they do? Because I actually have no idea. And I can say that for all the other jobs as well, but like, I think I can actually say what I think that they could do for some of the jobs, but like, we'll see. Anywho, but for Viper, I have no idea. So, you know, but the job is cool. I just wish that they made the potency not be like insanely weird with the awakening combo. Like in a 1v1 scenario, like Viper's great, you know what I mean? So in a cleaving thing though, you know, it's weird. What I will say though, and this also speaks to Reaper as well, they absolutely have to change the leveling of those buttons, because Reaper and Viper are so weird to play at level 70 and 80 for ultimates, or just in content in general. So like Reaper should have its buff at 70. 72 just feels so like bruh. And then Viper not having access to the twins during 70 also just feels really bizarre. And do you even get uncoiled at level 80? I don't think so, right? Isn't it like 82? So they got to change the leveling that the buttons have so you can like access your buttons and have like fun with the job, because to my understanding, Viper and Reaper are kind of like sleepy to play in at those levels. At 90 it's like, you know, it's fine, but like 80 and 70 is just kind of like, so there's that. Don't get mad at me, okay? Because I'm gonna say this right now, and I say this and I mean this as somebody who's played Black Mage very recently, and I'm telling you now, dude, they gotta do something about that job. Black Mage has always been a job where the weapon has been like the primary speed thing, and you play with speed in a way that lets you kind of like format like your speed for the application of your fire thing, and then you finish your thing, and then you switch over to ice, and you vice versa. But the job has so many things that I can't get like a grip around. So the first thing is you apparently never ever press high fire or high blizzard ever. You just flare star, freeze something into flare. Like that just seems so incorrectly broken. And it's crazy though, because like 2 flares will give you a flare star. Like I don't even know if it's correctly applied that way, but like I think it's so weird you never ever press high fire or high blizzard at all, ever. Like it's so bizarre to me. Additionally, Black Mage was one of those jobs that did get like a rework where all of the casting spells have been significantly reduced, so that you just kind of you literally become like a speed demon in terms of casting spells. And basically Black Mage wants to go fast, like Sonic the Hedgehog fast, like Blue Blur, like insane speed fast. So its best in slot is literally maximizing skill speed, like insanely. Now, I don't know how Black Mage players feel, so you let me know, but as somebody who's like a Black Mage enjoyer, but like I don't main the job, I do not like the current version of the job. I feel like there's just so much clipping. It doesn't matter what I press. The only time I can effectively press a button or even 2 buttons to clip into like a weaving thing is when I press either Xenoglossy or Thunder. Like I also like low-key miss Shortcast, but like that's a whole nother conversation. Because I've actually tried playing it. I even tried playing it at the slowest speed, and my fire, if I go like fire 4, and I feel like a ley lines in between there, I feel like the lag is settle in anytime I try to anything. So, and like also triple cast helps for sure, but then the reliance on this so much, because all you're trying to do is throw out like an amplify and like a ley lines and like the potion if you have to. So the fact that like I don't have a chance to effectively do that without it clipping is kind of wild actually. Additionally, my number one like primary like moment of Black Mage is that there's no timer anything. Like the fact that you can just hold on to gauge and like your fire or your ice like forever, I feel like that's the other thing that I've never been a fan of ever since they incorporated that change. So a lot of Black Mage in my mind needs to be reverted so that you have like a reason to kind of you literally should just sit still and just cast away. But also like I can't even slide cast with Black Mage. I feel like I have to use ethereal manipulation like so frequently just to like move around the map, because like otherwise I got a Xenoglossy Thunder Paradox and like just try to maneuver however I can. And I even tried doing it as well. I played Black Mage versus Necron and in Fru, and I think also I tried it in T. T was fine though, like it was whatever. But like dude, in Necron I like sitting still was weird. And it's also because like there's so many moments where you have to like move into place and like do stuff, and if I could move in slide cast or like throw like a swift cast in between it, like it'd be great. But the amount of clipping that I do as a result of that is just literally just at that point I'd rather just like not even try to like cast a spell. I just want to run into place and then cast it after the fact. So I don't know how people feel about that, so again, don't get mad at me, but personally I like the idea of Black Mage not having like a crazy recast time. It's kind of like an oh my gosh moment, you know what I mean? So there's that. Next is Summoner. Okay, so this could be like a little bit of a take. I know that everyone like feels a certain kind of way about Summoner, but here's where I'm at. Summoner, the rotation for Summoner is actually like, it's like fine. Like, you know, you summon like your Bahamut, you bring out like your 3, you go to the next one, and you know, I think that's actually fine. My only thing is that like what you press in between all of that is just non-existent. So also like in respective fairness as well, we have like over 30 primals, and pressing only 3 of them is definitely like a little feels weird. I've been meaning to talk about like actually designing my own rework of of Summoner so that you have a reason to press different like summons and do stuff. And conceptually, I thought it was like amazing. So I've designed a rework. The video isn't up yet, but you know it's there, where you can basically pick between 6 different primals, and if you activate like a thing that like harnesses the soul of the primal or something like that, then you get like a bonus effect for activating Bahamut the next time around. So for example, like if I wanted to avoid having there be like a priority, like you can like the potency output that Bahamut does is the same, but which primals you pick will change like the bonus effect that you get when you summon Bahamut. So for example, if you do like Garuda, then like you don't cast quickly, you just have instant cast, so you can move around as you cast like you currently do now. But if you didn't use Garuda, then you have to sit still and actually cast like the flare attack that comes from the Bahamut, so you can like do the attack, whatever. And then we came up with one with a with Remove. So I use Remove as an example of like, oh, you summon Remove, it has like 3 attacks that you use, and then you just kind of activate like the thing, and then you get the bonus. The bonus is that you get like a perma sprint during the time that Bahamut is active, so you have sprint as you're running around, which I thought could be really cool. So the bonuses you get do not necessarily make your output stronger. It just changes like what you have setting up going into the fight. Because maybe like, for example, like maybe you're playing a job or a boss fight with Summoner, and you can just sit still and like let Bahamut just stand still and like fire away. You don't need like the Garuda mobility or like the sprint. You can use something else where like, you know, with Ifrit, your attacks, you can attack from like a farther distance or something like that, you know, like things like that, right? So I was thinking about like that kind of concept. So it's not all set in stone though, so that rework is not even there, but that's the rework that I would have considered in terms of the usage of primals. But anyways, so the point here with Summoner is that I would love for there to be more buttons to press with Summoner. Like if you look at your hotbar for Summoner, the amount of buttons you have active to press is so incredibly low, and I do not like that at all. So like Radiant Aegis is a cool, like, you know, you give yourself like a shield thing, for example. It'd be kind of cool if that button could just change like which primal you have active. So like if you activate Garuda and like use Radiant Aegis, maybe it'll give you like a shield and a regen. And like if you have like Titan out, maybe it'll give you like a double shield, or like with Ifrit, maybe it has like an X-Cog effect, like something, you know what I mean? Now, I mean, that still puts it all under one button, but I think that's the concept that I have in my mind, is that like it'd be great if there was, you know, more buttons you can press in order to keep you like a little sustained, basically. Or they go back to how the Summoner used to play, not in the sense of the dot maging, because I think that could be a whole different job by itself. But one thing that, and I'll talk about this with Scholar as well, I kind of like the idea that the Summoner has to keep the pet alive and the pet does all the damage. So I love that you can summon and then the thing comes down and then it attacks, but then once it attacks, it like goes away and like that's it, and then all your power comes from yourself. I kind of don't like that in you at all. So for me, like if I had the choice, I think that like Eggy Assault used to be a button that Summoner had where you like attack and then it'll do an ability. So I kind of like that, but I think what I would want is for Summoner to be able to like have buttons that'll keep the Summoner pet like alive, because the Summoner pet also used to have HP, so if it died to like AoEs or attacks, then like it got killed. Now I feel like people would say that it was like a quality of life thing, that they prefer that you can't have the pet get killed, but I feel like if so much power relies on that tiny little carbuncle, then like you really should keep it alive as much as possible while also doing like your damage. I think that's like a thing that people would love to be able to have as like a sustainability for the job itself as well, because not that you're gonna sit there and babysit the Summoner the whole time or the carbuncle and like keep it alive, but like if you see that your thing is low, you can give it like an ability like a regen or like a heal or something. That way, like you can still maintain like your damage, but your OGCDs you can put them on cooldown, or like when you know that an attack is coming, you can give it like a heal thing, and then it'll stay alive, at least for that part, right? So that's what I've been hearing as well, because when people found out that the Carbuncle used to be like KOable by the boss, people were like, why can't it? And I was like, well, people said that, you know, it was just whatever. So Summoner was, you know, Summoner was very wild back then. So that's what I would want mostly for Summoner, but again, and we'll talk about that as well with Scholar. Next up is Red Mage. Okay, so here's my thing. Realistically, Red Mage is kind of chilling. However, it also still needs like the one thing that I'm thinking about, and the one thing that it needs, it basically just needs to not have raise. Like, I mean, they've already discussed the idea about removing raise from both Summoner and Red Mage, and I don't expect them to apply that into the current expansion at all. Like, I think it will be an 8.0 thing, which is fine. However, I think that Red Mage is one of the hardest jobs to play, and so for it to be that and then not have like a high DPS output as I think that it should have, it either just doesn't feel good to play at all, or you're like, why could I play Red Mage when I can just play Black Mage or Pictomancer and get more value for less? You know what I mean? So like, and also like Red Mage is one of those jobs that I feel like it should, it's a caster, but it should also follow a similar categorization as a melee, because there are moments where Red Mage like just needs to be able to attack up close and personal, and you really just don't get that that luxury. It was especially showcased in Fru, where there are a lot of moments where the caster is just in the back with full gauge and there's just nothing you can do. So you gotta wait. So they made a change with Magnification this patch, which I know that everyone's like, bro, that's so not cool, where you can do your melee combo during your burst window from like a super far distance. But like, I don't like that at all personally. So all they gotta do is increase its potency damage, which I think is already on the horizon to do that when they get rid of Varese. They should also revert the change of the melee combo. I think that's like super dumb. And that way also like, okay, also like last change is that it's a very small one, but I think it's important for Red Mage. It should have the hardest hitting auto across all the casters. The fact that Summoner Book Smack does like so much damage in comparison to Red Mage like Sword Stab is like insane to me. It makes no sense. So all I'm saying is Red Mage should have as much damage output as like a middle level type of melee job, but the fact that it's so low, it like is very irritating. So the primary focus for Red Mage is just like its damage. Okay, next is Pictomancer. So Picto is probably the one job that I feel like I have the least amount of insight on and how I feel about whether it needs a rework or not. I don't think it needs anything. I'm gonna say that it's like kind of chilling, but because the way how I see it, it's like in an ultimate where there's or like a fight that has like a lot of downtime, like Pictomancer is insane, but like in any other scenario versus like a full uptime fight, like Pictomancer is great, like it gets the job done, you know what I mean? But I don't really know if it needs like a rework in any caliber. I'm not too sure. I'm not under the impression at all that the job needs a rework. I think the job is like just totally fine. It's just been through some quality of life changes that people were going like nuts over, you know, where like to the point that there was a point in time where like you never used the hammer combo because the hammer combo was so bad, to the point that they you know, you can click off the spell thing and get like a prep for like a double thunder back in the day. Like dude, back in the day it was a wild time, and it wasn't even that long ago. Like just like Picto's been through like so much though. So but otherwise I think in its current format it's kind of chilling. And again, like if we ever enter like 8.0, I'd be so curious as to what they could possibly do to Picto, because otherwise I don't have a clue, you know. Maybe like another OGCD situation, or like a you just change like the potency like a hammer combo, or I don't know, you know. Like a great question actually, so we'll see. The only thing I will say about Picto, it doesn't really need to leave the just chilling category, but I don't like that you never ever ever use holy and white unless it's like a multi-cleaving uptime situation. Like I would love to press holy and white. It should do more damage in water and blue, like low key. Like I kind of like the idea of pressing holy and white, so I don't like that I don't ever press it. You're supposed to press it for like mobility, but when you're trying to figure out how to optimize like your output as a Pictomancer, like you should never press that button. And I didn't know that either. Like back in when I first started trying to play Pictomancer, I was like, oh yeah, like, I want to spend my charges of holy and white like I do with like Vipers Uncoiled. And then they were like, no, you don't. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, that damage is neutral to blue. Okay, that's cool. But like, why wouldn't I press it? And it's like, well, you just don't have to. If you have like a rotation that's proper and you can like set it up, then you just don't ever press it. And I don't think that's like entirely true, but I'm so under the impression, at least right now, that like you never press holy and white. You probably will going into the patch of Savage Raids, because there's going to be like the, you know, extremes, like they're going to be like a 2-target cleave scenario. I think that'll be very valuable, and I'm expecting Van Fatale to also have moments where she's going to be near like 2 objects, because there's like the, you know, the towers that have like the falling mines and then like the saw blades that pass around, so there is a chance that you might be able to cleave with it, which is cool. However, otherwise, like, you know, I don't see much reason to use it. Next up is Bard, and I think Bard is a very decisive or divisive job between like how people feel and think about the job overall. So in my personal mindset, it just needs one thing, and this is as somebody who used to play Bard extensively during Shadowbringers, that I loved about it, and then they took it out, and then I was like, okay, job's not fun anymore. However, it made like a nice like comeback in Dawntrail. So if you know where I'm going with this, then like congratulations, because like I give you kudos, especially if you played Bard back then. But I like the idea, especially in a scenario where Bard like could benefit from it like immensely, is where the more you dot something, the higher chances you have of getting like repertoire, because that used to be a thing back then. I loved playing Bard in Eden 7 versus the Idol of Darkness, because there was an ad phase where there's 3 ads you fight and you literally put the dot on all 3, so you have 6 dots rolling. The amount of times I could press like Pitch Perfect and Heartbreak Shot, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? So I love that concept so much. So it was really like sad to see that got thrown out the window with repertoire not counting the dots, because then people start questioning like, what's the point of the dots in the first place? You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. People also think that Bard should have like a Bane effect. So Bane is a button that Summoner used to have, basically, where you could take your dots, because Summoner also used to have dots, and you can spread it across targets, kind of like how Scholar does now in like PvP, but with Bard. Now, I'm not opposed to that concept. I've never thought about it needing like a Bane effect spread thing, but I could understand that sitting there and like dotting everything like constantly can get like a little obnoxious, especially in M6. When you fought Sugar Riot and the ad phase, the fact that you had to dot the boss, all the squirrels, eventually like the mantas, you actually sit there and spend like 14 16 GCDs, I think, at the minimum, dotting everything that needed to be dotted. Now Bard's damage went crazy as a result. However, if all that could have been resolved by just pressing Bane, because you can Iron Jaws Bane and then you can reset the timer and then spread it like crazy, that would have made a whole lot more easier and a better sense of how to like effectively play Bard in that phase. But I don't know if we're going to receive that kind of situation again going into the next patch, or the Savage Raids here, or even like the Ultimate. But if they do that, though, they should consider it. Otherwise, I don't really have much else to think about with Bard. So that's the only change that I really think about that like makes the immediate like in my head like click, is the multi-dotting thing. So that's kind of it. Next up is Dancer. Okay, so I'm so sorry for all the Dancer enjoyers out there where your Talana still does not give you like a free charge. I'm so sorry. I completely understand. I have learned the ways, and there are moments where I'm also like, cool, let me press this Talana, and then immediately I get 100 gauge, and I'm like, that's not what I asked for. Am I grateful? Like, totally, but like, bruh. Anywho, as far as I'm concerned, I think Dancer is kind of chilling. I know that the Talana change should be incorporated. I do. I don't think though that there's anything that immediately comes into mind that requires it to receive a rework of any caliber. I don't really think so, but I don't also know. Like, it's kind of hard to think about it in the moment. The way how Dancer currently plays right now, with like the potential chance of getting like the yellow and the green, is very gambler-esque, which I don't really mind that too much. But the way how the job plays, it's like if you can saber and last dance as often as possible, then like you don't really press the yellow or green anyways, you know. Like reverse cascade and fountain fall is kind of like, it's just like there, so it's not terrible. But again, I don't really know how much of a rework situation should come into play with Dancer. Now if I may be inclined, I would say, like, if I could offer a rework idea, what I would like is for Dancer to be able to actually switch between partners and become like a DPS support utility job, where like, because we had like a theory about this, where like you want to pick one partner and like dance with them, and then boom, they get buffed. Then you find another partner, dance with them, boom, they get buffed, and you kind of cycle it. I conceptually thought that was really, really cool. That was one idea. The other idea was you have a dance partner thing that's like a red one, like it is right now, where you give them like power buff and then they have like a thing. But then, and this is also assuming that like healer has like a sustainability situation, like kind of like healer tank-esque, where you can have like a partner who you can dance with. So you can dance with two partners at the same time. So one buff is like red and the other one is green, and the other one will kind of serve a little bit, not like Sage's Cardia, but like, because in PvP, if you use Starfall, then you get like an increased movement speed. If you use Fan Dance, then you have like a reduction. So I kind of enjoyed that idea by concept. So I thought that it would be easier to have a partner thing be applied on like a defensive or recovery situation where that could work that way, and I would have enjoyed that. But it doesn't, it's like a thought that would have been like, oh, if they do this, it's really cool, then whatever. There's that. Next up is Machinist. Now, I think everyone is already yelling at me to put it in the do it please rework situation. And so here is my answer. It definitely needs something. Okay, so no, I'm joking. Machinist is one of those jobs that has not made sense in terms of its application for the longest time. I think that the identity of Machinist is actually still present, but where it fits on the DPS scale across all of its other partners and also the other DPS and all the other jobs and whatever, it's just so bizarre. Now, don't get me wrong though, from a pure DPS output, like Machinist is cracked, okay? Like Machinist is a very strong, hard-hitting job by itself versus its counterparts. Like, absolutely it is. However, when you think about the general foundation of the jobs and how they all play with each other, that's where Machinist starts to fall far, far away. So the rework that I would incorporate for Machinist is actually to bring it to a different type of format, where, because right now like Machinist is being classified as like a pure DPS, so its only job and role is to DPS, period. But the problem is that, like, because of it being a range job, it doesn't have the potential output to dish out similarly to Viper, Samurai, or Black Mage. But it should, but it can't, because it's a P range. So I think that they have to just remove the idea entirely that Machinist is a pure DPS job if they want the job to remain where it's at, and turn it into a support job, kind of sort of like how it used to be. But I would have a twist. So the the queen also, that used to be like a little turret. There used to be two different turrets that you utilized with Machinist, and one of them actually served as like a defense down type of turret. So for me, I think that what I would like is for Machinist to actually receive a utility buff that helps the party out, turn it into a buff job, because Dancer right now is a buff job that will dance with everybody with technical and give everyone the buff during 2 minutes, which is cool, but also has standard, which it gives that one person partner the buff too, which is great. Bard plays songs throughout the entirety of its kit and rotation, and then depending on which song you play depends on what kind of buff you get, right, which is great. So for Machinist, all that I think that it should do is have a button of some caliber that reduces its opponent's like defense down. So kind of sort of like a trick. I don't know how to differentiate it from the current version or future versions of Trick Attack, but I think that Machinist should have some like raid buff utility, so that way it can stay blended in with the party that it's in and still be a very useful job. Because a lot of people still play Machinist to this day. It's not that much, because like Machinist is not a bad job by any means. It's just that when you try to figure out how to dish out your damage output at the highest possible level, like, yeah, Machinist falls behind like kind of a little bit. So there's been so many moments where Machinist has been lower than Dancer and Bard, and those jobs buff the party, and Machinist doesn't buff anything, right? So if they ever decide to do that, that's what I should think they should do. Or if they want to keep Machinist as a pure DPS outputter, then they have to just increase its potency significantly to have it blend in where it should be, but it should come at the cost of like how the job can be played. I don't think the Machinist is necessarily like a hard job to play. You know, you just push your tools on cooldown, activate a hypercharge, throw out like your full metal field with your wildfire and your queen, something. So my offer is this: the queen should be like a pet thing. Now I know that they talked about going away from the pet thing because like it's a huge problem, but Machinist just being like a thing you bring down and then it attacks and then it goes away, I think that has to also come to a conclusion. So what you should do is actually summon the queen and have some kind of like repairing system, which sounds a little similar to like how old Summoner was, where if the queen gets KO'd, then you'd have to kind of work towards building it up again to like have it, you know. So in my mind, I think of like Torbjorn from Overwatch, you know, you summon the turret out, you can make it stronger, boom, and then it's stronger, and then it attacks. And then if the turret gets low, you bring it back up. Or if you can have like a burst window moment, the turret gets bigger and then it kind of goes crazy, and then you just deal with that. So that's where I'm personally at. I would love to think that conceptually Machinists can get a rework and it makes sense, because I don't think Machinists are like that down bad, but I feel like every person who mains Machinists just feels like their job is just not worth playing, and it's not true. It's totally worth playing and it's definitely a good job, but how it stands out compared to the rest of its brethren is up for desire. So now we have the tanks, and starting off with Warrior. Okay, so all the tanks right now are in a very particular position where their cooldown usage, their invuln usage, their rotation, it's primarily all like 60 seconds, with the exception now of Dark Knight. So, and I'm a tank main, so I can understand that, like, you know, the jobs are where they are. So it's going to be a little tricky to really think about what I like and don't like, or what to change or what not to change. Okay, so for Warrior, I think that Warrior could use a couple of changes. There's like a few things that I'm like, you know, like I get it, I like it, it makes sense and it doesn't make sense, and etc. This, that, and the third, whatever. First change that I would think about, and I'm only saying this change because I've received feedback about this change from other people as well, is to essentially like the whole idea of Fell Cleave and Inner Release and Inner Chaos and Primal Rend and Ruination always being like a direct hit. As great as it is, it doesn't feel good when Warrior is the weakest tank out of all the tanks. It should be, because the invuln's so good, but it's the weakest tank DPS wise. Now I think that's also like a little neither like here nor there. So I think warrior, just from like an output perspective, it's weird that it's like the weakest one. Now when I say weakest, like the differentiation between that and the strongest is like, it's like 1% and like not even. I think that there should be like a bit of a defined differentiation between the output damage that tanks can do at the cost of their defense. So like the problem with that though is that if you have two tanks that are weak DPS wise and two tanks that are strong, no one's ever really going to play the weaker tanks without having like the defense to boot. So what this means to me is that the tanks just themselves need some kind of rework in entirety, where like their survivability, like you want to have a strong defensive tank and a strong offensive tank so that they can kind of like work together in harmony. But the problem is that like, you know, you want to be able to play any tank you want to. So like if like, let's say for example that like warrior and dark knight are the weakest tanks DPS wise, but they have the best sustainability, then their value should be as equal to be played together versus like a paladin and a gunbreaker where their DPS output is the strongest but their utility is the weakest, right? So it's kind of hard to figure out that balance, because I don't know if I like the idea that all four tanks are very, very, very similar in damage. I'm not too sure if I don't actually know if I like that, but I play all four tanks, so to me it's kind of like, it's whatever, I'll play whatever feels most comfortable in the fight. But I think that's what they got to do though. They have to make me even more uncomfortable, where like if I'm gonna play a job like warrior that's a very HP recovery type of job, then there should be like a high challenge for a job that doesn't have as much HP recovery, say like a dark knight. Then I as a warrior can help my dark knight teammate survive easier through mechanics that are very daunting and costly towards HP. Or if I need help with like a bunch of like mitigation, then having a paladin or a gunbreaker can be helpful in that regard, because like as a warrior, mitigation's kind of like a little mid, right? So that's also what I think about when it comes to the way how the job works. But anyways, so I think some changes that I would like to consider is the direct hit thing. I feel like could be looked into. Bell cleave, it feels incredible to press that button. The animation is really cool. The sound of it's really great. Like it's such a good button to press. And same thing with Inner Chaos. I love Inner Chaos. Best button in the game, no question, hands down. But the direct hit thing is a little like, you know, it's a little like, you know. Additionally, there's currently a problem that I have with like Inner Release and Delirium, where you act, I mean, I guess it's also the same thing for Imperator and Bloodfest also, but the jobs are all just a little too similar with how they press their buttons. Rotation wise is different, which is fine, but like the actual like that one singular button is the same for all four tanks now. It used to not be that way, but now it is. So it's kind of hard to, I mean, I feel like warrior is the one that should keep that button where you press it and you can like fell cleave a bunch of times into Primal Wrath, and then like, you know, you go crazy. So I wouldn't put this necessarily on like warrior, but like that's my thought process at least. Also, I think just the invuln in general could be reworked. This is for all four tanks. Like warriors always considered like the main tank, the best tank, because home gang is just such a strong button. You know, every 4 minutes you just don't die, you do whatever you want, like you're big chillin'. But Paladin's invuln is like technically the best because it takes 0 damage and doesn't give a crap about anything, which is tough because like it's 7 minutes, right? So I don't know if like I want the invuln, like I don't know what I want for the invulns to be changed, but I want them to be changed, like all 4 invulns. So home gang is super strong and I love it, but I also like hate it at the same time. It's like a weird love-hate relationship. So I also don't mind that the Storm Eye Path combo is there too, but I kind of miss when tanks had like an aggro combo. So it'd be cool if aggro management became like an important factor for the jobs, but it's not, right? Because like Butcher's Block was super cool to press, and like Skull Sunder too. Like there's so many good buttons that we used to have back then, and like, you know, I'm a person who's in the mindset of like I would actually be okay if tanks had brought back the multiple stance thing, because generating aggro I feel like is really, really fun to put when you want to press buttons, you know what I mean? But like again, it's kind of hard to dictate that when you're like just a stance one on thing, because all 4 stances are the exact same thing. So there's no difference. So if there was a difference, it'd be cool if they can like distinguish that. So that's Warrior. Next up, we have Paladin. Now Paladin is unfortunately like the job that got like the rework of reworks across all 4 tanks, because back in Endwalker it used to be like a sustainable DPS job. Like you would do like your FOF combo, then like your Reworks combo, and you would just teeter back and forth, right? Which I didn't mind that, right? So they reworked Paladin so that it has the same kind of situation that it does with like Gunbreaker, where you press both buttons and then you just go crazy. Now I love that. However, I also think that it should be much more punishing and more usage of the MP, because like the problem is that like with Paladin, you never have to think or worry about managing your MP ever, and I think that that could be a really cool identity for Paladin. So I think that some of the changes that I would like for them to incorporate could involve like how the rotation works with the job. I think that Paladin actually has like a fun rotation. It's a good job, you know, and it's also so strong. Like being able to attack from a full distance with like the configure combo and like throwing like a goring blade thing is like, you know what I mean? Like it's cool. But right now, like Paladin, I mean, they're again, all the jobs have just so many similarities, so I would love it for them to figure out like how to differentiate those changes. Again, I don't know how they could do it, but if they could figure it out, I'd be very happy, because it'd be cool if there's a way to, you know, play Gunbreaker and Paladin and also recognize like how differently they have to be played, especially from like a mitigation perspective. The real challenge for all the tanks is specifically like their mitigation. So like I don't like how invulns are used right now in the content, because it's just not fun. Like I hated it so much that in M7 the tower mechanic in phase 3 with the when the boss is on the wall and jumps in the middle, because in the normal version the whole party would sit under their middle like crazy and like whatever, but then the savage version was like, oh, just invuln it, and it's like man, it should just explode and defeat everybody, because it requires like an 8-person stack thingy. But the fact that the tank can just invuln it is kind of like a little annoying, honestly. Almost to the point that even in the normal version people were like, oh, just invuln it, and I'm like, I mean, you're not wrong, but that's a savage thing. You know what I mean? So that's why it's kind of tough. But anyways, that's where I'm at. So Paladin changes though, like I kind of want them to do something with the atonement combo, and I want them to make the management of MP like more strict. Like it really should be more strict. I don't know, because Paladin's rotation is just too similar to like the idea of like, you know, you pick 1 2 3 and then like your other 1 2 3 and then like your 1 minute, and then you just kind of do whatever. It'd be cool if you had to do something to like manage like how you can use like your spells, because I like the idea of a magic casting tank where you want to kind of like sit in place and like do stuff. But again, if I had to also incorporate like a stancing thing, it'd be cool if Paladin's shield could be changed to compensate for magic versus physical. Like it'd be cool if it had like a scale to that caliber, because like back in the day, like Paladin was so bad at magic damage because like you couldn't actually block magic damage. But the thing is, like right now there's no distinguishment between magic versus physical damage, like it's all the same. So in my mind, again, like I like the idea that Paladin could be like a very physical heavy based tank, and even though it does magic offensively, it can't handle magic defensively. So having that compensation, I think, would be kind of cool. But again, I don't know how that'll incorporate stuff going into the expansion, so we'll see. But otherwise, a couple of changes for Paladin, you know what I mean? Now, let's talk about Dark Knight, because I hate to really tell you this as a truth, but it's gonna come to the truth. Dark Knight is another job on the list that like absolutely needs a rework. I do not like the way that, and it's funny too because the singular change that Dark Knight didn't need removed, it got removed, and it doesn't feel good at all to play anymore. It feels great to press buttons. Like some of the buttons that you can press with Dark Knight it's an incredible feeling, but the rotation's like a nothing burger. You just kind of sit there and want, you know, like it's like a perfect rotation at 2.5, but you just do the same thing over and over again, and they kind of put you to sleep a little bit. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Also, I understand that everyone feels a certain kind of way about the TBN, because TBN is like a thing that, like, you know, you hate it and love it because like either it breaks or it doesn't break. And I think there's a really easy fix for that. If you ever take any damage that's 1 damage and above for TBN, it should give you the proc for your edge. Like, very simply put, you know what I mean? Additionally, Delirium, again, way too similar to like Inner Release, where, you know, you press it, you have your 3 buttons, you press it back and forth, and then, you know, the differentiation is that like Warrior has 3 fell cleaves that don't change, but Dark Knight has 3 buttons that do change, right? So sometimes that doesn't feel good because you might miss out on pressing like come up into a Torque Cleaver, as much as I love pressing those buttons. So again, I don't know exactly what I would like for them to do, but it would be really cool if there's a way to manage it with like an MP thing. I think that Dark Knight's MP management is also like very severely butchered because of how the change incorporated with Blood Weapon and Delirium. Like, I do miss Blood Weapon so much. That was one of the coolest buttons for the smallest change possible, but it really differentiated how the job gets played. So I miss it every single day. Again, not to say that Dark Knight's like a bad job. The job is incredibly powerful. It's super strong. I think it's like the best tank in the game, like hands down, across like a generalized idea. So, but again, I think that I would like the idea that that Dark Knight could either play with the Shadow. Again, I know that pets aren't a thing anymore, but if they could do a thing with pets, the Shadow should be included as one of those options. Not that it needs an HP bar or anything like that, but like it would be it'd be kind of interesting to see like how it can play itself out across the board with its content. Like, I feel like also we did a rework video like a while ago about how to rework Dark Knight, and I still hold down to that concept today. So I like the idea that Dark Knight can serve as like a hybrid tank, where if you use like Dark Arts to change like the affectation of a button, it could do that, right? And also, I feel like Carve and Spit with Abyssal Drain being like a 1 to 3 thing is like, again, not a fan of that at all. So also, like, that being said though, I mean, I know that they'll never do this, and everyone says like it's not going to work in this game. I totally disagree though, but it would be really cool if there was a way for a Dark Knight to be a tank player or a tank job that is able to actually use HP to do things offensively, but it should have the safety thing to recover the HP by some means, whatever that it is, so that you can actually feel like a Dark Knight, because Dark Knights are usually offensive, so that's why the HP thing doesn't really work that well. But the problem is that the HP thing works very well in PvP, so there's no reason why it could not also work here in PvE. Now again, all I think that means is that, like, you know, you should just have a button that lets you recover HP, or basically like give it like a stance where you have like a permanent like HP recovery per hit situation, but part of it is also like expending HP. Like, man, I think that'd be so cool. Does it sound super broken? Like, maybe, but I think to compensate though, like Dark Knight could have the worst, like, I mean, I think it used to also like have like the worst mitigation across the entire board, but you have unlimited regen. Does that sound broken? Like, yeah, sure, fine, but like the fact that you could like spend your HP to do stuff also though kind of makes up for it. So if you do it like wrong time, wrong place, and you don't think about it, or you don't plan ahead of time, like you can just get murdered for it, and it'd be kind of crazy actually. So that's just me though. All I'm saying is I'd be a big fan of the idea that Dark Knight can actually HP and mana balance itself out. And not to mention, if you have healers and also like a co-tank, they can also help manage that with you as well. Like, I don't know why we think that Dark Knight can't be managing an HP thing and some of it, like, it doesn't work. It totally can work. Is it going to be jank and weird? Yes, but at least the job will be very, very different than just like your 1 2 3 blow your load of like your edge and delirium and your shadowbringer and your whatever, and then just go back to 1 3 2 3 until you're ready to, and throw like the occasional TBN, because you can't even TBN as much as you want to, like, you know what I mean? So again, I'm an advocate for it too. I feel like that the job just needs like an absolute massive change to everything that it does. And to me personally as well, like for a lot of the jobs that have gotten reworked over the course of Dawntrail, I'm still so shocked to this day that Dark Knight is still not on the list of jobs that got reworked. Like Gunbreaker got reworked before Dark Knight did, and I think that's like wild. So there we go. And now we have Gunbreaker. So I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about Gunbreaker with the rework that they got in 7.4. It's different. It's very different, but does it need anything is my question. I can't immediately think of anything, because again, like the problem that I have with Gunbreaker is like a general tank idea, not like a rotation burst window thing idea. Because in my mind, like Gunbreaker is supposed to be the strongest damage output tank in terms of RDPS, which means like it's total damage across the board, right? Like in terms of maximum output damage, Gunbreaker is the hardest hitting tank. But in terms of like, you know, put the tanks versus each other against like a dummy, Dark Knight wins. But overall damage, including everything in the kit thing, Gunbreaker wins, and it does that, which is good. So the thing that it's supposed to be doing is like totally correct. Now, from like a tanking perspective, right? People will say that Gunbreaker is very similar to Paladin, and it's now more similar than it ever has been before, which is okay. It's not really like a problem, but I am a person who thinks that Super Belied being like a 50% thing versus like a 1 HP thing, I still don't like that change. All they would have had to do was just increase like the recovery that you can receive while using Super Belied that you can gain from pressing like Corundum or Aurora. And I think it would have been fine. Like if you press Aurora and if it increases your recovery tick from like what 200 to like you know, I don't know, like 1,000 or something like that, like it's fine, you know what I mean? So I don't like that Corundum, or not Corundum, Super like doesn't bring you to 1 HP. Like the 50% thing, it's basically a Paladin thing now, but like half the cost for like a minute though is like crazy actually. So being put to half health for a minute less time required versus Paladins is like not really fair. At that point, both Gunbreaker and Paladin should just be the same time, but they're not. So, you know, so maybe just like one thing for Gunbreaker. I also don't really enjoy the idea that Gunbreaker is a +3 with like its demon combo, but Faded Brand Circle is like a 2 combo thing. I don't mind it though, but I think that certain tanks should be +3 and certain tanks should be +2 on their AoE combo rotation. And Gunbreaker, I mean, Warrior's +4, and that needs to be fixed ASAP, but like we won't talk about that. Like I like the rework for Gunbreaker. I don't dislike it. Like I never had a problem with the idea of like the Lionheart combo being 2 minutes. It's never bothered me. The Gnashing Fang 2 charge thing is crazy though. Like that's a crazy ass change. So there's that too. I was testing it out in UCA with 2.4, and it's very jank, but if you can figure out how to maximize your efficiency with it, like it feels like Gunbreaker is a lot of fun to play at 2.4, just as much as it is to play at 2.5. The setup for it though is like a little like setting up a Gunbreaker is like very tricky, because like I think Gunbreaker's rotation with one charge and Gnashing Fang was very similar to Dark Knight's, where you know at 2.5 what you press in the order you press it every minute and every 2 minutes is the exact same, which is it was fine. Like it was fine because you press a bunch of buttons like every 30 seconds to a minute. So now that it's, you know, it's similar to the Paladin where you press everything every minute and then like you chill until the next minute, like it, you know, like you kind of have like, all right, just pull the thread. You kind of have like a moment to like kind of chill and think and like prepare. But then now I run into the problem where I actually start forgetting because Bloodfest is a 2-minute button to a 1-minute button now. I don't remember when the burst window comes out. Like, I gotta think about it. I didn't have to think about that like back then, but now I think about it like all the time. So that's kind of funny actually. But you don't really care about it either because like your rotation is the same every minute. You know, you just like you Gnashing Fang into No Mercy, and then you do it again, and then you just rinse and repeat. You know what I mean? So I like the Gunbreaker rework. I just kind of want them to change how the job handles itself like defensively, because I feel like Gunbreaker should be the squishiest tank defense wise for being the highest damage output tank. But its output is equal to every other tank essentially. Mine is a couple changes, or a few things, you know what I mean? So otherwise, the Gunbreaker's like pretty chill. So, okay, now we have the healers. Now with White Mage, I know that everyone is kind of like mind blown by the fact that it opens with a free plenary, or not plenary, free misery and 3 lilies to boot. It almost seems like to me that they're going to do the thing where you can basically store 2 lilies going into 8.0. Like, I would not be shocked by that at all. But then you probably want to do like your 2 lilies, you use 2 lilies, and then you can get like an even like stronger lily, and then you get like a super blood lily. You know what I mean? Kind of like how Pictomancer works right now, because you have the one motif you spend with like the palm use, and then eventually you get like Medine and like Mogbeam, right? So you probably spend like a lily or 2, and then you need 3 lilies to get like your super lily, and then you your burst window will probably be like a bunch of glares, your super lily, 2 blood lilies, and then like, you know what I mean, and like your glare 3s or 4s, and you just glare through the rest of the dot, right? So anyways, job wise, White Mage, I got theoretical for a minute. I think White Mage is like okay. I think that there are some changes though that I could, okay, so I think before White Mage was a problematic job to me, because as much as the job was like kind of straightforward to play and like you heal, I have like another video that I'm going to talk about, because I like ranted about healers for like an hour basically, where all of the like the fact that there's pure healers and barrier healer differentiations, I hate it so much actually. Hate's a strong word, but I very much dislike that there is a distinct differentiation between pure versus shield healers. I think that they got to just wipe that away entirely, because right now, like if you go look at your like your job listing, or if you go look in a party finder situation, actually PF is easier. If you go to PF and you open up like a job roster situation, the tanks, it just says tank and it has the tanks. But if you go to healer, it's split between pure and barrier. That's got to come to a close, because I do not like that you can play White Mage with Scholar or Sage, or play Astro with Scholar or Sage, but you can't play White Mage with Astro and content, and then you can play Scholar and Sage. Like, this combination of Astro White Mage just doesn't work. That's got to go. So I think part of the rework would be to incorporate White Mage in a way where it's able to, because like White Mage is supposed to be like the pure DPS output healer, and it is now that it has the access to that extra lily that goes crazy, right? But I still like the idea of White Mage being like a utility type job, because of a buff possibility thing of the nature. So in my mind, like the changes that I would like for it to receive is like a party buff thing, essentially. Like, I think that's genuinely all that comes into mind. I also don't really see any reason to and I talked about this again in like a different video, but a lot of buttons that White Mage has, you just never press in content. Like maybe like dungeons, like yeah, sure, maybe, but like otherwise, like no. Like to go from cure 1 to cure 2 to cure 3, or like medical 1 versus medical 3 is like completely like, huh? Like you never ever press medical 1 ever. Like there's never a reason to press that button. So it'd be cool if White Mage and all the other healers as well had like a rotation kit thing where you use certain buttons that are weaker to make certain buttons stronger, or have stronger buttons be used, and then you can do something with the weaker buttons, basically. So like, for example, let's say like if you're doing like a mechanic and then there's downtime and you press medical 1, and if you press it 2 times, then your next medica 3 is like a guaranteed like a crit. And you can only do that by pressing Medica. But like, you know, if you Medica 3 only, you might have a chance for it to crit. But two Medica 1s could guarantee a crit. You know what I mean? Like, I think that could be really, really cool to see. Because right now, like, if you press Cure 1, it's like a 15% chance that you can get a Cure 2. But again, like, why would you ever try to fish for the Cure 2 free when you can just press Cure 2? You know what I mean? And again, healers need their own rework as well. Like, I hate that. I mean, also for tanks too, like tenacity is a really annoying stat to play with. I think piety is also a very annoying stat, like on a whole lot of fronts. But like, just think about like white mage entirely. I would somehow incorporate white mage to have some type of mitigation sustainability concept that also allows us to be like either like a pure DPSer or have like a party buff. That way, its placement, because like if white mage does less damage than Astro right now, it doesn't. But when it did, it was like there was never a reason to play white mage because it doesn't buff the party at all. Its buff is its damage output. But when you get out DPS by a job that has a buff and can buff the party, like white mage doesn't feel good to play at all. Now it's much better. I think Astro is actually the weakest for now, healer DPS wise, but like that's a different conversation. So I would like for them to rework white mage in a way to the point that like it can still retain like the idea that it has right now, where it's like a heavy like burst healer. But some mitigation would be really nice, and also it'd be cool if there was a way to like modify how it can DPS basically, and also mitigate. I mean, hold on, yards. So is that. No, you're Scholar. Okay, so Scholar definitely needs something to be done to it. Scholar is one of those jobs that it's such a weird job. Job is super strong. Job is so strong, in fact, that it can solo content by itself with no help whatsoever. If you want to solo content as a healer, like a solo heal situation, yo, you play Scholar. That is so wild to me. So here's what I think about Scholar. Scholar has a problem right now where Ether Flow, you use it every 2000 MP, right? And you get the recovery in that, which is cool. But the thing is that Scholar's Ether Flow has a very weak offensive button that unfortunately you want to press because it is damage, because this game measures you by your damage output. You want to press that button, but you can't because you got to use it for all your defensive stuff. So your hope is that your party helps you survive stuff defensively so that you can use it more offensively. Now, is energy drain like a super strong button? Like, no. But the thing is that like it's still DPS output that you're not going to get if you don't press it. So it'd be helpful for them to just remove energy drain entirely, so that way your ether flow is specifically like a defensive thing. Or they give you a thing you can play with. If you ether flow, you can get like an offensive thing and a defensive thing, and then the gauge between the two is like separated. Right? But that's neither here nor there. So I would be a fan of that opportunity if it could do that, but it can't because the job just, you know, you just can't, you know, so like one second. So it'd be really cool if they could figure that out with Scholar. Like energy drain versus like not energy drain is like such an annoyance. Like me, like, I try to always use only one ether flow stack for just a concept thing, and the only real time I use it for is with soil. Otherwise, like I can't immediately think of other reasons why I would press my other buttons. You know what I mean? So is that. Additionally, and I talked about this again with Summoner, but all of the buttons that you want to press with your kit in mind, with Scholar, there's only like 4 or 5 of them that come from the fairy. And also the fairy doesn't ever have like an issue of dying anymore. So for me personally, I think that what should be heavily incorporated is that a majority, if not all the buttons at that point in time, should all come from the fairy. Because you can effectively play Scholar without a fairy and be fine, and I'm not a fan of that at all. You should absolutely be reliant heavily on the power of the fairy. Same way how Summoner should be heavily reliant on the power of the summon with the carbuncle. Like if your summoner or if your fairy like gets KO'd or your carbuncle gets KO'd, like yo G, like the recovery on that for you is like, I mean this very dramatically, right? But like life or death, like no lie. Like if you don't have a fairy yet and you don't have a mitigation suppress, like you just wipe. You know what I mean? So what would be cool is if when you summon the fairy, it has like a native like defensive increase to your potency. Like if you use like constitution and it has like a recovery of like 300, the fairy will give it like 500. It'll channel the power to your spells to kind of increase the power of the buff, whatever. But like you're required to bring the fairy out regardless, so that 600 isn't like extra potency. If anything, you're reducing your efficiency to heal or shield as a scholar if you don't have the fairy out. It'll punish you for not having it out, basically. That's my thought process to it. Additionally, there should be skills that you can use that'll also be used to keep the fairy alive during content, because realistically the fairy needs to be put in the game with full purpose of control and power. So all of the buttons that you have should be centered around keeping the fairy alive, and the buttons that the fairy has should be focused on keeping the rest of the party alive, and then I think it would work. And like chain in baneful is like fine, like I don't, that's whatever to me, honestly. But I liked back then that scholars needed to like work really like hard for being the best healer in the entire game at the cost of also making sure that the fairy stays alive. Because Summoner was the same way. Like Summoner was the best DPS in the entire game at the cost of keeping the Summoner and Summon like alive the whole time. You know what I mean? So there's that too. Now the problem though is like with all these healers as well, I don't really know immediately what they could do to the jobs come 8.0 without getting rid of some stuff. Because like Scholar has a lot of buttons. It's one of the jobs that have like the most buttons across all of the jobs, next to like Paladin, for example. But Scholar is one of those button jobs that you press and need to use like almost everything, which I don't mind that. But I also would change Scholar in a way, and this change effectively goes to White Mage as well, because like I said before, right, like if you try and do content, White Mage and Astro can't really work together because mitigation is a requirement. Like every heal check in this game is a mitigation check, not just like a pure check. So like if you get hit with like a Charybdis, which basically brings everyone's HP to 1, that's supposed to be the job of a White Mage or an Astro. But the crazy part is that you can also actually give that role and responsibility to a Scholar or Sage, and they can also assist with the recovery, which is not good. Like it should be very difficult for a Scholar or a Sage to top everyone off to max HP, and their only job should be to just do mitigation and like shielding and that kind of thing, you know. But the way how the content works right now, it's like the Sage and the Scholar like needs to be able to recover HP also, not to the same speed and degree that a White Mage or an Astro can. But when you go through content and you see that some shield healers are out healing their co-healer on a pure scale, you're like, yo, what's the purpose of the pure healer in the first place? You know what I mean? So again, to rework the entire idea of healers, like one can't live without the other, should be like a requirement basically. But with Scholar though, like I very like made my point with Scholar, right? Fairy should have all the proper buttons, and you know, the focus should be on keeping the Scholar's fairy like alive. So just that. Now we have Astro. Now, you know, interestingly enough, like Astro's had so many reworks historically over time as well, similarly to like Monk, where they change a thing every single patch. And honestly, the best versions of Astro were both the Stormblood variant and actually the Endwalker variant. I actually liked Astrodyne a lot. The only problem with Astrodyne was that depending on how many seals you get for your stuff, for the buff, what buff you got at what order just was not good for the random variants you could get, because back then, like in Endwalker, the cards that you got were like relatively random, and you had to like kind of pick the ones you need to get the 3s. So once you get your 3 and you can pop the buff, you get like a damage down, you get like a speed buff, and you get a regen buff. All they had to do was just switch that. If you change the order so that you can get one you can get 1 thing and then get your damage up, 2 things get your speed up, and then 3 for the MP regen, and maybe like a, you know what I mean? I would have made the first 2 things offensively, so like your speed and your damage output, and then 2 same thing, right? But the third one should have just kind of given like the Astro like a, not like a sense of invulnerability, but give it like a bunch of defensive properties. So like if you manage to get 3 seals with Astrologian, then you get like a personal MP regen, a personal HP regen, a shield, a increase to your ability to heal output with your spells. You know, all your casts are instant, like that kind of thing. The third one should have been like a very like personal quality of life, like utility thing. But if you don't get it, it's not like the worst thing ever, because it doesn't affect like your rotation or your output for damage and recovery, or for I mean DPS like primarily, right? But like, so them getting rid of that was not my favorite. The current version of Astro is okay. All they have to do is just swap which cards you start with first, and it would be a much nicer fix than what it is now. Because the fact that you start with Astro and go into Umbral, you have to use your Lord card and give the Spear card after the fact, and that also just doesn't feel like, because you have to use your Lord so early just to get your Spear out and then give it to like somebody else. So like, you know, you want to give out the melee card right away, Lord, switch to Umbral, give the caster card out, and then like you kind of just chill, right? Now here's my problem as well with Astro right now. So I actually do not like that the cards are given to people on a single level type basis. I kind of like the idea that the cards would just buff the whole party, and I would turn that into an effect too. So at this point I've already kind of established that it could use like several changes, you know what I mean? Because Astros should be very helpful and important. Their cards should be like the centerpiece of their kit, and the cards are only ever useful during the burst window, or if you want to use them on tanks to like help with something. But the thing is that like you don't really need to use those other cards. Like the Astro spends so much more time doing other healing stuff that like, you know, you rely on like your horoscope, your Helios conjunction, your star, your macro, your celestial, your collective. You know, you don't really often use like Bull Spire, Ewer, or Arrow. Like you don't. You kind of like just throw them out because all you care about is keeping the spear and the balance, and then you give those to people, and then you just kind of go, you know. So in my mind, with Astro, I'd be okay if they either turn the cards into like an AoE thing, or reduce the amount of defensive cards that you have and increase the number of offensive cards. That way you're able to give the cards out almost like candy, you know, like, oh, like you get a card and then you get a card, and you can kind of pick and choose who needs what based on what and where. But I feel like also the more, like, if the card has a concentration towards a certain role, then it should actually provide more benefits to that role. So for example, like if the balance is a melee card, if you give that card to a melee, then they get their 6%, which is cool, but they also get like their regen, their shield, their, and then like, you know, something else. Not speed, because that'll piss off people, right? But that's what I mean though. Like, and then like if you get like the bowl, and let's say you give it to a tank, then they get like their damage up of 6%, they get their regen, they get their shield, and like recovery increase, right? And then let's say you have like the what's it, the Ewer, and then the Ewer goes to like a fizz range, right? Like same thing, right? They get like their damage up, their regen, their MP. I mean, they don't need MP, right? So then like a shield, boom, okay. And then the other section could probably be used defensively or continue to be offensively. Like it really should just be like a you know, like an offensive thing much more so than defensive. And I also like the idea that there was a way that Astro could extend the time and potency affectation of the cards as well. I also really liked that back in the day. So Astro back in Stormblood used to be able to either increase the efficacy of the card by like 150%, which is pretty decent, or extend the duration of the card to 30 seconds. So you could have a buff for 30 seconds. Or you can cut the potency of the card in half, but you can give it to the whole party. I feel like the management of the card thing for Astro is significantly more important than being like a celestial HP pure job. Also, and again, I covered this as well in a rant video, but essentially Astro's best vibe of being an Astro was when it could hybrid heal, and it could switch between nocturnal and diurnal sect. So I'd be okay actually if they let you do that. But the thing is, like, the potency functionality of the job between those two should be severe. Like, if you're going to go into diurnal, like, you do only pure healing, and it requires like a bunch of buttons to press because you press like a whole lot of OGCDs. And if you went to nocturnal, then like you can give out like some shields, but same thing though. Like, but like your ability to recover HP from a pure perspective, if you're in nocturnal, should be close to like 0. But if you're pure, then you should have very little, like 0 shields, you know. But that way you're forced to kind of manage how you use that on top of the card system. And I mean, dare I say also, like, depending on what stance you're in, might also indicate what kind of card effects you might end up getting, which would be also cool, because then like if you did the diurnal card thing, then you can give out like you know, if you get the balance of the melee, they get like a DPS up buff, right? But they also get like a regen thing and like a restoration HP thing if you have it in diurnal. And then if it's like nocturnal, then they can get the DPS up buff with like a shield thing and then like a mitigation thing. And then all of a sudden, like, there's a reason why those cards can work the way that they work with the stance in mind. So again, I'm a big advocate of the idea of it doing that. So yeah. Lastly, we have Sage, and respectably, yo, Sage is kind of chilling. I don't really think that the job needs anything to be changed for the most part. Like, the job does a little bit of everything that it does in comparison to its other teammates, right? Like, I don't know if you can necessarily solo heal with a Sage. I think that it's totally doable though, just because like it's a mitigation job. But like if you want to regen heal or like or pure heal with Sage, like you totally can. Like you have the option and the freedom to do so. And the potency for the buttons it has is also pretty strong too. Like it kind of goes crazy. Like a Zoe Numa being like a 900 potency heal is insane. I don't think that there's any other job that has that kind of recovery except for like maybe a full Lilybell or like a macro. I think I could be wrong about that though. And you can use like Philosophia as well to compensate for that too. Your potency recovery is insanely high with that Sage. Rotation DPS damage job wise too, I think is also really cool. I like the way that cardio works as well. I'm a really big fan of how everything kind of flows, and also like your shields being compensated into outer sting, where you can get like a free mobility tool that keeps you completely damage neutral unless it's like a, you know, a 2-target scenario. I think it's also very stellar. I think the problem though at the same time that I run into, it's a small issue, so it's not like that big of a deal. So like Sage can do everything except buff the party, because it, similarly to White Mage, its objective is to be able to dish out its damage. It's like a DPS healer, like White Mage is, which I think is cool. But if I also gave the idea out that White Mage should have some kind of raid buff to like kind of blend itself in like a little bit with Sage, or sorry, with Astro and Scholar, I think Sage should have the same thing. So similarly to like, I think that like Scholar puts a debuff on the target so that everyone's damage is increased output wise, and then Astro increases the party damage to the party. So White Mage should totally have the same idea where it can buff the party and do a thing, but then Sage should have like a debuff thing that it puts in the target, and then damage increase to it also happens to be a thing. I think that would be great. So that's where my mindset's at personally. Like I said, like Sage is really, really cool. Like I think I like playing Sage a lot more than I like playing Scholar. I like playing Scholar though, like don't get me wrong, but like for comfort's sake, like for me, like Sage is a much more enjoyable job for that perspective. But I also love the challenge that Scholar currently has. But again, like if Scholar had that rework, then the intrigue to playing Scholar would be a lot more increased, I think, as a result. So I don't really know what I could possibly do or add to Sage that like needs to be looked into. Like that's a genuine challenge. Like I don't know what I would do with Sage. Like if Phlegma ever becomes like a range attack, like that'll actually annoy the heck out of me. But I don't think that they'll ever do that. But I could be wrong because they turned Red Mage's melee combo into a whole range thing from the universe, so like it's possible, you know what I mean? Otherwise, I think that's actually it. Like, Sage is chilling. And lastly, we have the bonus job of Blue Mage. Okay, so here's my thought process to it, okay? Blue Mage needs a lot of things, but not in the way that you think. Because for me personally, I think that the idea of a limited job thing is really, really, really cool. And it's very interesting, and the job is a lot of fun to play when there's content. But there's no content. You know, you have Mass Carnival, and then you can do things synced with your other Blue Mage friends. But the thing is, like, a lot of people are not going to tap into raiding content with Blue Mage except for like acquiring spells, and there should be like a constant thing and reason to play Blue Mage. I think one of the biggest challenges that Blue Mage has right now is the factor of people wanting to go out and actually like explore the world and dungeons and go chasing after spells and actually doing content with it. But also the thing is, like, a lot of the spells you can acquire, you can either just do it synced, and it's actually a ton of fun. Doing a normal trial or a savage trial with the Blue Mages all synced is so much fun. It changes immensely how you can actually perform mechanics in that fight with that job. But also, like, you know, some of the stuff that like Blue Mages just look very broken right now. I think at the same time, what I would love is that there are things like dailies and roulettes you can do in order to use Blue Mage more frequently. Because like leveling up Blue Mage is a lot of fun when you can level it up. But when the only time anybody ever levels up Blue Mage is if it's like the last job on their list, or new content comes out and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, I gotta work on Blue Mage. But then once you're done with that, like you're done with that, right? So my proposal is very simple. Similarly to how you have like a leveling roulette, alliance roulette, MSQ roulette, you know, normal raid roulette, try roulette, just give Blue Mage the exact same thing. You know, just kind of copy and paste it over. Also, there should be a PvP mode for Blue Mage as well. Like, I think what would be really cool is if you play like a battle royale style kind of situation where you kind of like stand over a color or like a thing, get like a spell, and you have access to that spell for like some like usages. You know what I mean? And like if you defeat somebody, then like they drop like their spells on the ground and you can just steal their spells, and then it kind of takes over your kit. You know what I mean? I think that would be so cool. I mean, that's me just spitballing like a random idea about PvP for Blue Mage. Additionally, not that it needs it. It'd be nice if it did though. But if they could ever change the concept for Blue Mage to be not a limited job and be playable like the rest of the jobs are in content, then I would like that also a lot. But I don't think that we'll ever get that, so it's okay. But I think to compensate though, like if Blue Mage gets its own savage raid tier at some point in time that's not the repeat of like Arcadian or Pandemonium or Eden, then I would be very happy about that, because I would love a reason to do unique new content that's very challenging and a ton of chaos and a ton of fun with Blue Mage. But there's nothing, you know. Heck, if we somehow get like a Blue Mage ultimate that cannot be played by any of the other jobs and it's only Blue Mage, that would also be fire. I would love that a lot. I think that would be one of the most unique moments that people would be like, oh, I had to learn a job and get spells for a thing that I never thought that would ever be a thing, and like now I gotta work on it. Like it'd be kind of crazy actually. And additionally, not that I forgot about Beastmaster, because like Beastmaster's on the horizon as well come 7.5. Beastmaster and Blue Mage are now two limited jobs that are going to have their own unique type of content, and they should have content that they can share with each other, and there should be a reason to level up both jobs under the same kind of light. So that's where the whole like roulette thing I think would be really cool, because like in my mind right now, Blue Mage is a DPS, which is totally okay, and Beastmaster will become a tank, assuming. So we'll see. Now, I think that if Blue Mage can DPS and Beastmaster can tank, I mean, but of course like hybrid between DPS and healer, like that's fine, right? Then that'd be really cool, because then like realistically that means that you're going to be able to have content that specializes in the role that they play, and therefore you can do that. because again, like I think all of the content that's normally accessible to all the other jobs should be created for Blue Mage in mind as well. Now, I don't think that it needs to, I mean, again, if we get like an ultimate that's specifically a limited ultimate only, that'd be great. But I also think that like we talked about like a Blue Mage deep dungeon one time, and people were like so happy about that, they thought that it was like a real thing coming out, and I was like, no, like I'm so sorry, like we just talked about this as like a concept, and people were very upset about it. So like I'm so sorry. But that's my point though. So to give you like a quick idea, Blue Mage starts off with 1 level spell, and depending on what monsters you defeat, all the monsters have a chance to drop a like a blue chest, not the silver ones, like a blue chest, and it will have their spell. So if you pick up the chest, you acquire the spell, and then you can use it until the end of the duration of the deep dungeon. And like, you know, all the monsters have different spells. Some of them are really strong, some of them are really weak. Some of them have like healing things, some of them are defensive, some of them are like offensive, right? And I think that what would be cool is if like you do in fact need certain spells to fight against certain monsters, where like either it becomes significantly easier or not at all. Like let's say for example, you have Diamondback, which is like a near invulnerability, like 99% reduction button that the Blue Mage uses, but it can't move. And let's say you're fighting Behemoth, who does like a 80% HP attack thingy, and if you invuln it, then you take no damage. So if you can prepare that, then that'd be really cool, right? As like a concept. Yeah. So all in all, like, like the way how Blue Mage is currently operating, I think is great. I think the like going out and getting the spells is really cool. I think that going into trials and raids for it is also really cool. But I would like for there to be a reason to do that even more often. I would just focus on, you know, creating like a metric F ton of spells you can acquire, and have content where you're going to want to go out and like explore and do some of that content. But also I would make sure that there's content available for Blue Mages only, and that way it doesn't hinder or like corrupt the other content that could exist for other situations. What I'm thinking about is like, because somebody mentioned this as well, like in the Yokai event, playing with Blue Mages was atrocious because everyone would do like the pull in, like hydro pull, ultra vibration with like the Ram's breath, whatever it's called, and like you couldn't get anything done. So like if there are going to be like purple fates, those should be for all the other jobs, and then blue fates can be for like Blue Mage specifically, you know. And that way you just have content variety across the board for people to go do stuff. So yeah. Otherwise, I mean, Blue Mage is like it's a great time. It's only but it's a great time when you can get into it. So I don't think it needs like a rework in terms of like it's like how it's played, but more so like where it's played, you know, and what to play with it with, you know. So there you have it. This is a really interesting tier list, if I can say so myself. So thank you for watching and listening to me yap about this for like almost 2 hours. Again, this is not a tier list that is like, oh, like these jobs are good, these jobs are not good. It's just like a me opinion thing. Also, some of the opinions and ideas that came from the community as well. So again, everyone's got their own thoughts and ideas behind it. So do not take this into account under like an idea of like, oh, this thing sucks, this thing doesn't suck. Long story short, if you're gonna do the raid tier tomorrow or any ultimate in the future, every job is viable. You can play any job and they're all good jobs. There's no bad job in this game. Like tier lists that are like based off of how good or bad a job is completely like obsolete and is irrelevant to the highest degree. So when you're going to make a tier list, make it like a fun, interesting thing, not like a, hey, this job sucks, don't play it thing, because that does not exist by concept. Your skill level will dictate how good the job is. So keep that in mind when you're going into content. So there you have it. So thank you for watching and tuning in. And you know, it's easy to kind of put this in the background and like enjoy the show and like the music as well. So thank you. And again, as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. So take care, and I will see you guys all in the Savage Mines. So good luck.